And that's your blessing for this food. Christ, and we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Just so everybody knows, Daniel Mahaffey from Unity is on Teams meeting. He's the only one. All right, approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We got a motion over here. Man, let's go. All in favor? Visitor comments.
No, sir.
Hearing none. Thank you for attending. Approval of the April the 4th minutes. Everybody got a motion in a second. All in favor? Perfect. All right, information item, grant update.
Nothing to report tonight. Do y'all have a delivery date on the compressor yet?
They have not given us a new update other than the middle of this month.
Middle of this month?
Coming up quick.
Everybody good on their V-Saves?
If you need help, I need them, need you to email me quickly.
Yeah, if you need any pricing, don't wait till the last minute.
Is everybody putting in for these things? Most important? Perfect. Training report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, if you take a look at your packet as I go down the list. January to June classes are rolling pretty smooth. We're in the middle of instructor 2 right now. I've got a good class going on right now. We test out this Sunday. Last couple of classes, pump ops and fire instructor are already a go, so that's excellent there as well. Also, July to December classes, they've already been submitted. This has been approved by your training officers as well. So they've been submitted 6 months ago, but keep getting the question when they're going to put them on the portal. It should be within the end of this month, 1st of June. That way you want to start signing up for the next 6 months classes as well. So you already they've already created the course codes and section numbers for majority of them, but they should be coming live on the portal soon as well. Sport company ops and the seniors finishing that up, and tomorrow the junior class test out on the Charlie side of firefighter 1. So they'll be testing. We'll be testing them tomorrow. Next active shooter drill is July 11th and July 30th and August 1st. This will be at the Buford area schools. I say Buford area for a reason. We're going to utilize possibly 2 schools for that and have 2 scenarios that day. All right. So it won't be like the last drill. We'll do training in the morning, drill in the afternoon. We'll be going straight into 2 drills. All right, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. All right. It'll be the Buford area school. I want to make mention on the rescue drills. We keep delaying this, but in May, we need to come up with dates for our this year's rescue drills. Trying to do them on 4 different nights. So that way, if one quadrant's doing a rescue scenario that you would like to be a part of, you can attend. Right? So really get with your train officers and ask the train officers to come back with dates. I told them if they didn't come up with dates, I was going to come up with them as well. All right. You want Saturdays? You want Tuesdays? You want Mondays? What do you want? All right. So at the May this month's train officers meeting, we'll be narrowing down the dates for that drill as well. IST is always the same. Class E licensing. This is we had a EVT here recently, but we had some people that couldn't get into the Class E, so doing kind of a request Class E licensing. This will be the week of May the 20th. Tomorrow is the deadline to register. Ann sent out an email earlier with the registration form attached. So please, if your personnel want to have their Class E licensing, the registration is due back by tomorrow. Remember, the prerequisite for that is you have to have a Class E permit, EVT, and then the day of they come in, they have to have a 3-year certified driving record from the DMV. It's got to be 3 years, and it's got to be the certified one, right? When they come. So
In the email.
that is in the Yeah, I got, that is an email. Lastly is on May the 21st, that Tuesday at 6 p.m. Gooch's Fire Department will be having a Narcan class. Ann sent out the email a couple weeks ago for the registration link. So please have your personnel click that registration link. If you got new members on there as well for the, for that. So, and if you have any questions, Mr. Chairman, that's my question.
Any questions for Britt on training? Hearing none. Maintenance report.
Mr. Chairman, I will send out the, sheets Monday morning, for this past month, reports, from Firehouse and from the 10. All trucks except for 1402, which is now an Indian Engine 2, and 644 are back in service. All the tankers' transmission issues have been resolved. The gearbox on Indian Engine 2 needs repaired and is waiting on the ship date for the parts for it, so May the 15th, hopefully. 644 cylinder for the extension cylinder for the driver's side. We got it off, we got the cylinder shop, and it should be ready any day now, and get it put back on, and then we can see what else leaks we have prior to testing it again. That went out during maintenance, our yearly chassis maintenance. They found that, so it's really made a mess, so we got to clean it up, make sure there's no other problems that they thought we might have. So that's all I got right now is them 2 trucks.
Any questions on maintenance for Billy? All right, budget detail?
Mr. Chairman, in your package, you've got the DAI for the fire commission budget and for the fire rescue budget. Unless you got some questions, everything is moving along. Billy's working on getting the trucks outfitted. That all came in at one time, so he's gradually getting things moving on that. So that's one of a couple of those items that are still pretty large. Those trucks, as we move forward on them, that'll be taken care of that for the end of the budget year. Any questions? You got that information.
Any questions on budget? All right, so we'll move to action items. Discussion concerning fire commission budget.
Mr. Chairman, County Administrator Marshall is here as well, so he's got some things he's gonna talk about. There's a couple things that I want to make you aware of before he gets started. At your table tonight, you have a list of what we initially called the $16 million purchase, which over 6 months became a $17 million purchase when we did the anticipated pricing. Mr. Marshall had asked that I go through this list. Remember, this was the smaller list, and prioritize it based on what we did was 7 trucks the first year, and then a certain number of trucks every year over a period of years. And so you've got what Billy and I were able to come up with and send him. This list was what the apparatus committee came up with as the first recommended list. Then remember, we talked about the KME issues that could go on, and we had a second list. The extra trucks that were on that second list are not addressed in this list, so I need to make sure you know that. So you've got this. The other thing that we did toward the end of the week last week was he had asked us to go into every budget that we were responsible for and cut 5%. I was able to do that in emergency management, and I did do that in the fire rescue budget. However, as I went through this budget, I was not able to cut the $55,000. They actually wanted us to cut $75,000. And even that is gonna hurt it, but I could not cut it in good conscience in places where I know the money's gonna be spent next year because of testing and equipment needs. We're already running short. So I turned that in, and he didn't kick it back to me, so at this point, that's standing. So, and he'll address some of that as well, I think, when he's talking to you. So other than that, if any questions on that, we'll turn it over to him to talk about his plans moving forward in our budget.
Great. Well, Mr. Chairman and group, good to be here. I first have got to start out that y'all do great work, but I want to make sure you all know that one among you was recognized recently for Employee of the Quarter. Congratulations to Billy Lloyd for being recognized as the Public Safety County Employee of the Year. So we do we recognize the general government and the public safety. And so we had nominations, and Billy was selected for the first quarter. So congratulations, Billy. Couple of things is that it's budget season as always, so all kinds of moving parts. We've had conversations from a year ago, but really since January, in earnest with county council about fire, talking about capital, talking some of the post-merger stuff with the Pleasant Valley Indian land. So you all definitely been part of the conversation for the last 7-8 months. And so hopefully coming to a culmination starting next Wednesday when I do my budget recommendation. And then through 3 readings, basically by June 26th, County Council will determine how we're going to proceed as it relates to fire, but the overall county budget. A couple things I want to highlight is that every year we get more requests than we have money. So basically, we got over $5 million across the county in new funding requests. And that's before new positions and any compensation, increased compensation. That's just operating and some of the capital expenses where you need some of the replacements and different things. So it's not that unusual. But looking at the initial forecast for revenue, we're a growing county, so we should have a little bit of growth in tax-based generated revenue. And so it confirmed that we're gonna have about $2.2 million in new revenue. So it's a math problem. We got $2.2 million in new revenue, and we got $5 million in requests, and we haven't talked about compensation yet. And you haven't talked about capital. This is just the operating on an annual basis. And so when I saw these requests come in and know what the general revenue coming in is when we said, well, we need to see how we can look at the budgets again. And that's when I went back out and asked for the 5% reduction in this year's budget. It won't take effect this year, but what can we carry forward that we may not need as much going forward? So when we put the 5% on the budget, it's about $1.2 million. So if you take 5% across all the operating line items. What we got back was about $900,000 in reductions. I've already gone through that list and we're probably about down to $585,000 across the county. Different things that I won't recommend continuing on, but with that, of the $5 million in new requests, I can see going forward with $1.5 million. So basically, I've met the $2 million threshold where we can do some new things that are being requested. We can make some reductions where maybe we didn't use it all this year, but we're within the $2 million of what may be new revenue, so there won't be, under that scenario, a new tax increase, except for we haven't talked about new positions or compensation. So that's where we're at right now that I'm wrestling with to get to my recommendation on Wednesday, but we're heading to a good place. But part of the budget is to also talk about the capital, where we can go out and bond money with our credit rating and pay it off just like your home mortgage or whatever we've been doing. We did the 7-year program in the past. So I want to first say thank you to the Moving Forward Committee and for this conversation, because yeah, Darren has shared this with me, and the original ones he shared with all the requests was about $26 million for new apparatus. Clearly that's a big number to bite off, and that's just for apparatus. But then scaling it down to something more manageable at $17 million, still a big ask, but if you'll take one and here, I'll give you a couple of those. You take one and pass it on down. Actually, good. Yeah, good. So I want to show. So council's been asking me, we need to see a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan because we want to know if we're going to buy something this year. What does it mean for operating costs and staffing needs in the next year. So we're seeing the whole picture, the total picture going forward. And what does that mean for funding? Because if you understand now, we really don't use much of the property tax millage to support fire operations. It's basically the fire service budget, emergency management, and then the fire commission. It's not that much in our overall millage for fire service. We have to use our debt capacity to make the movement on the stations and things. So what we're putting together, and we've still got some more work to do on this, but what you all said, and I'm paying exactly the information that you said. Here's the 17 million in new requests for apparatus. So moving forward, y'all had talked about where should we maybe go by the pitch study, putting regional staff 24/7 fire stations. And you all said, update the Heat Springs one, maybe look around the Camp Creek, Shiloh Unity area, and then identify 2 other locations, east and west. So we have this 4-station model going forward. So I'm interested in that. So we've had this conversation with county council, and they quickly got sticker shock. And when you're also talking about fire apparatus taking maybe 4 years to be delivered, that also helps us think about lead time. So what we've done is I've put together this plan that we're going to present on Wednesday next week. About taking the first part of the plan, and on it says one side station, the other side's apparatus. So on stations, and we know that Indian Land, their 3rd station is also a need. So we've accommodated that. They've got plans, things moving forward. So if we look to start funding the Indian Land Station 3 in this next fiscal year, then do some of the renovations they need. But then we get into the Heat Springs Stations update, so we can move this 4-station regional model, and then look for a new regional station, if it's the Camp Creek area, whatever, see how that plays out, but look to that, plan that, design that, get that ready for FY30. So just for today's dollars, and this is actually roughly saying, I think the Heat Springs update $500,000. I think we're saying 10 million for the Indian Land Station 3 and 10 million for the regional. But yeah, so 20,070,000 just for this station. So yeah, 20,700,000, and that's just for those projects. If you flip it over, looking at the apparatus, knowing that we do have some KME issues, we have a 25+ year apparatus out there, but if we can purchase 8 apparatus in this next fiscal year starting July 1, then look out doing 6 in FY26, 7 27, and on down the line there, that addresses this request over 10 years. I had said I first gave them a 5-year plan, and when we looked at what would it be just for a capital millage to support these stations and the apparatus, there's going to be 15 new mills on the tax base. Right now, we generally pay for county government, all services is 88 mills. And so when you think about 15 mills just for fire apparatus, we also have separate millage where we borrow against to pay just for our debt service for other things that we need for ambulances and other things too. So my recommendation to county council is if you stretch it out over 10 years, knowing the lead time to get apparatus and different things, and you do 9 mills on the property tax base, that will generate about 4.6 million. So we can do a $45 million bond program over this 10 years. We'll see what they think about that. But I want you all to know, I'm willing to carry your plan forward. I've been talking about fire service since I've been here. I've had it on my last 2 retreats with county council in January. We're going to add to this information about the operating costs and also putting staffing, full-time staffing for these. I know we're talking about maybe moving around some positions when we open the Heat Springs station, but it's significant because when you get up some of the preliminary stuff, over these 10 years, you add the operations and staffing, you could get up to basically $60 million to add the apparatus, add the station, staff them, and do all the operating that you need. So that's significant. But that's the conversation we're going to start having on Wednesday. And so I'm willing to, we've had this conversation a little bit with county council about talking about millage. How can we do capital countywide? I'm willing to force the issue. I think that we need to have a dedicated funding plan. We can't still do it hodgepodge and say, oh, we'll do a couple this year, may do a couple next year, and then they get concerned about millage and we stop doing it 3 and 4th year. We need to have a consistent plan with millage, and so that's what I'm willing to go for, starting on Wednesday's conversation. The other thing I wanna highlight is, we'll talk about Indian land, we have some other things separate about some of the staffing, yeah.
In this whole plan, going out to 33 or 32, we're really not catching up anything. We're replacing 25 and 30-year-old trucks at that point, and then we're gonna have a whole set of engines that's 25 or 30 years old. And that's, huh? That's in there?
No,
He's validating what you're saying. He's
Yeah.
agreeing with what you're saying.
That's,
You're right.
either you're gonna have to find cheaper tankers or go back to farm trucks or something. I mean, I don't know what kind of tankers we're getting. Is the one like our tanker $550,000 with just a tank on the back, or is this like Elgin's?
So commercial chassis with tanks and.
And it's, trucks are going up,
They're skyrocketing.
I would say, 6+% every year.
Yeah.
And that's probably low.
The problem, even if you order trucks in 25, you're not getting the 29.
I know.
If the lead time's what they say.
Yeah, so I think, and Billy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the lead times on the tankers, cause commercial chassis, are they shorter?
About that.
Oh, that's why I was wrong, I am correct, it was about the same, trying to tell you on that.
Would I love to order 15 apparatus tomorrow? Absolutely. Do we have the money to do it? And so we can stay on this path that we've been on, is maybe every 7 years we order,
Well, 20 to 25.
so, but trying to figure that out, and it is a massive problem. I was talking to Darren about the other way you could move on some of these other things and some of the older ones, is that this would be dedicated millage just for fire. We have other millage, I said, for our debt service, where we pay for ambulances and pay for other things. We can maybe tap into some of that also to catch up on some of these things. But, council's having heartburn over the cost of stations and the cost of apparatus, and not wanting to raise millage. And so even going to 9 mills on the tax base just for the capital, I'm gonna make sure everyone hears this too, is that the county council can do the millage countywide for capital. Municipalities have to opt in. So the city and the town would have to say, yes, we want to have the tax millage also assessed within our jurisdiction. So that factors in, if they're in or out, how we think about the apparatus and stations going forward, with or without the participation. So that's another conversation. But, so stay tuned for, Wednesday's conversation. We'll start this, and, there's still gonna be a conversation about millage just for operating in Indian land versus the rooftop fee. So it'll be a little side conversation, but I think for you all, my message is, I want to advance this ball. I want to get a plan. I want to get us on a path. And this is the best solution that I think is the most palatable. But I think that it embraces what you all talked about for at least the past year. And are we truly moving forward? Yeah, maybe not as swiftly as we all like. So I welcome any thoughts and feedback from you all before we go forward on Wednesday. So I'm going to finalize this over the weekend and think about my whole budget strategy. Also on that, I want to give you just a side note, is one of the things we're looking for, I don't know if it's in that public or not, Billy and Philip might be interested, but we are close to having a new fleet facility that we will utilize, change locations and different things. And so that will allow us to also do some upfits that will help for our fire maintenance. But that's to be announced soon, about 3 months probably, but we're getting close. That'll be part of the budget conversation as well.
And Mark, back to your comment, when we did the anticipated cost of the 7-year purchase, and in the CIP that you turned in several years ago, before COVID, of course, we'd anticipated the trucks, the whole purchase was probably 20, 22 trucks, 23, whatever. would come in at about 10 million, based on normal price increases and that accruing over the period of time in the purchase. What we ended up getting when we got the anticipated, now granted, these numbers do not have any volume increase or decrease or credit for that. There's usually a substantial credit when you're buying a number of trucks. The less trucks you buy, the less that credit's gonna end up being. So that figures into it too, but nobody has bid this. We just got planning numbers based on the different consortiums that are out there right now, and similar to the trucks that we get. So there's not been a bid or request for proposal done. So to say we could buy that truck at that amount is not right, probably be cheaper than that. But that's all gonna be determined by how many we buy and when we buy. The problem we got is that increased income, and it's there in building, it's there in trucks. When you got $30 trillion that's been added to an economy, and most of that went to government, local government, and everybody and their brothers buying trucks. They can buy trucks or anything else that they can buy that's a one-time cost. That's why the prices have skyrocketed. It's supply and demand. 5 years from now, you may be able to give away a fire truck almost, but right now, we don't know that, so.
The, station, is the county paying for the Indian Land Station, or is Indian Land Fire District paying for Indian Land Station?
Under this one, they, the county paid station, just like the new regional one, yeah. So the capital sales, if we do a capital millage, and we do a capital millage, really part of that. So it would be county provided, right?
You saying you're not gonna hire anybody for the southern part until 27 when you do East Springs renovation?
Hire or build?
Hire full-time help.
We're putting the staffing component down, so usually in the year after, if we say it's constructed in 27, we'll account for staff in 28.
So you think that building a new station in the Indian Land and then renovating the 2 stations that's already up there, it's basically a new station, is more important than getting help on the south end, which that's why this originally come up 2 years ago, because the south end needed help.
I'm open to conversation I've been hearing. If you want to see
Not
East
be
Springs,
open. We done told you we needed help down here, and everything we send to you, we get knocked down.
so do you want to see the Heat Springs done in?
I want to see volunteers get help on the south end. We missing calls. We need help at night and weekends.
Does that require a new station, or does that require different staffing?
Well, in our proposal, we told you that Heat Springs could already house people now. We
So-
could hire people and have them in Heat Springs now.
So, not the new regional one, but the Heat Springs one is where you think we should put our attention first.
Yeah, that's what we sent you in our report.
Okay.
That was gonna be my comment, cause this is just capital, right? You said personnel.
Yeah, just capital, yeah. Yeah.
Cause that was our main focus, with that committee was trying to get what can we do to better serve the people when we need help? And it's like Stacy said, you know, we kind of looked at it, how do we first get people involved? And that was kind of, it worked out that Heat Springs has a station that could automatically, with not much, house people, and it happened to be an area that needed a lot of help. So that was kind of where we came from with that. And the regional station, I think that was because Shiloh Zion didn't necessarily say, yeah, you can have our station to put people in it, but we know we need something in that area, and we were thinking, well, maybe Camp Creek would be willing to have a renovation. We wasn't necessarily building a new station. I was gonna clarify that for you.
Good, thank you. Good.
What renovation would Heat Springs Station need?
I don't think that much, because it said 500,000 from what I'm hearing, so I don't know. So we need some
I thought
kitchen,
y'all
we need some
was
kitchen.
ready to rock and roll down there for housing, full-time staff.
We said,
I thought they was ready to rock and roll for housing for 24-hour staff. I'm not questioning what's the renovation would they need at Heat Springs.
did you have like 3 refrigerators and different,
You
three
got
different shifts?
you got commercial refrigerator, so this is large refrigerator.
For 3 shifts, I mean, I think seeing other stations having some shift accommodations and some I don't know if you have dividers and bedrooms and different things or not.
You have 4 different bedrooms. You have 4 split bedrooms. So
Hey, if we
you
do
could
less
put
or whatever, that's fine.
You could put 2 beds in each one, so
I
that
think-
makes 8.
I think the 500,000 was a plan figure up to,
When the station generator was the big thing,
but, okay.
because we don't have a backup generator.
Yeah. This is good information, that's why I wanted to come by you all first. But other than that, I mean, you can sleep people in there today, for that matter, as long as the town agreed to it.
Y'all don't have a backup generator, what you say, you don't have
Yeah, we
backup?
ain't got a backup generator, but as long as power stays on, we do.
Well, the station do, subject to change at any time.
There's 4 beds and 4 bedrooms.
But it's a private station.
It's a private bedroom, so therefore, I mean.
So
you
that
could
addresses
put-
the problem, with females, whatever, you can handle that on.
Hours and all that.
So,
2 showers.
each shift would resolve it.
You have a deep clean shower and keep it better.
Now change the bed.
Good, any feedback has been helpful.
Anybody else have any feedback or comments or questions?
I share your concern on the other side of this. As we're replacing apparatus, I'm kind of biased to that, doing my job, but doing 8 apparatus first, 6, then 7, and then breaking it down and actually tapering off towards the end of that 30, fiscal year 33, tapering off is not something we should be doing at that point. We should be kind of maintaining a steady rate of that, because if we're tapering off, we're gonna be like, when y'all said something about it, we're constantly gonna be behind, and even at year 30 or 29, we're still at 25 years on apparatus. So tapering off really shouldn't be the goal.
Chico, let me explain one thing, when Bill and I were doing this, because there was one year that we went to 2 trucks, so he probably took our recommendation on this. The reason we went to 2 trucks is that year we were buying the heavy rescue and the hazmat truck, and both of those are $1 million+ trucks.
Right.
So that's why that one year it went down.
Well, and I can understand the fluctuation depending on what trucks we need or what trucks need to be replaced, because if we were to get on a schedule of replacing those trucks in that fashion, once they started coming out, because once you order them, and it takes 4 years, once that schedule catches up, roughly every year, you're gonna get your set amount of trucks that you're ordering, so to stay on a consistent schedule. But tapering off towards the end of that should be the goal. It should be maintained. That's what.
And to your point, if we implement this millage, we will potentially have that in perpetuity, so we will have that funding stream, and if it grows, which as a growing county it should, that will free up more money to add apparatus in the out years. But we can't project that right now without knowing the growth after 4 or 5 years we can.
Do you have an estimate on, you said right now we do, 88 mils or something, that you're
88
talking about
mills
going
is
up
the tax base.
9 or 18? How much is that for a $500,000 house or property?
We're gonna have that for next Wednesday, I don't have that.
Okay, so
figured out yet.
it changes,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
not a
yeah.
fixed number, okay.
Based on the value.
And that changes every year?
And that's the hardest number to get, because it has to come from the state, to the auditor, to the assessor, they have to coordinate it, and
Okay,
then they give it to him. That's what puts his budget recommendation to where it is, as opposed to being able to do that in January. It would be a whole lot easier if we could.
When people are taxing 4% rate or 6% rate, and other things that go into that. But we will have some of those examples for Wednesday.
Any other comments, questions, concerns?
You, have any idea when we gonna get help as far as firefighters?
In terms of just the number of new firefighters,
South end, to help on nights and weekends.
Even from the fire rescue service, fire service moving forward to that proposed plan that was approved was part of that.
well, so for this fiscal year, we requested 4 of the career positions, so considering those. So however Darren wants to deploy the career, what we're calling career positions, can determine how they're assigned and figured.
And Stacy, we're batting around in here with the staff as to come up with a model that might allow us to go to some coverage What we don't wanna do is end up with one person in a station to bring a truck. They need to be able to be able to respond and do something when they get there, so.
And you battling around in here, what happened to the committee that sat there for nights and nights and nights and come up with a plan? Where's that plan now?
The plan is, and I passed it on to him, that the staffing was one of the critical things you wanted right now. And addressing that as we speak. But I don't know what we're gonna get yet. We're trying to come up with something to recommend to the committee as to what we think would be a good staffing model based on what we end up getting. So you don't end up spending months and months and months trying to come up with a timeline. So.
What I thought that committee was supposed to do is to start with.
Some have talked about 12-hour shift. Councilman Mostello has mentioned that in the council meetings. We're trying to figure out if we can do that and what kind of staffing it would take to do that, so. As well as the things that are going on here, but the committee will be involved once we've got more information to bring you back.
So we added 2 firefighters last year for the career, and then 4 is requested this year. Like I said, we're gonna talk about staffing and compensation is the other part of the equation that will probably tie to a millage increase. And so right now, I see recommending 2 more career staff in this budget. And so how you want to distribute that for shift coverage or different things, I think that is the next conversation. And then if we can do the Heat Springs and work on the scheduling for Heat Springs, if we can accelerate that, I think that's part of the solution.
So I said it come up 2 years ago. That's why all this started. We needed help on nights and weekends.
And we're here. You've gotten some new positions. I'm here
Nights and
tonight.
weekends?
What?
On nights and weekends?
I don't know if we do that yet.
No, yeah.
So we may get to Heat Springs from our conversation tonight. I can see about moving that up. And I know it's been recommended, so we'll see where council goes on Wednesday from the conversation.
So is this first proposed millage you wanna do only for trucks and stations, or can that money be used for personnel too?
Cannot be used for personnel. Only for capital, which is purchasing apparatus and station. So that's another question, right? So when we do move to staffing the Heat Springs station, that's gonna be the conversation with council then is raising the millage just for staffing and operations of that.
And if you listen to the council meeting on Wednesday, you're gonna have to talk to your council people and make them aware of your concerns, because a lot of the conversation is that down here, we don't expect any help yet.
So back to the millage, so I understand, so you would create one millage line that is designed specifically for capital, then there would be another millage after that one in the future that would be deemed for personnel? Is that what I'm looking at? So like, if you're gonna enact the 12 to 15 mil increase, when you make that, it's just got capital out beside it and that's all it can be used for?
It'll say fire capital.
And then when you create more, it'll have something else out beside it, that's non-personnel?
Not necessarily, there's 2 approaches to it. So the fire capital, countywide millage, separate, committed to apparatus and stations. Within the existing millage, the 88 mills, county council can raise that 10 mills to fund fire operations. I mean, so it wouldn't be a separate line item, it would just be, or they could choose to do it as a separate line item. That is an option. So when we come to talk about how do you fund the increased personnel, if it's for Heat Springs first, or even 2 more firefighters or 4 more firefighters, whatever it may be, do we absorb that within the current millage, or do we use a separate one? I know it's a lot to understand the millage and trying to figure all this out, but because when you see your tax bill now, you even see the schools on there, USCL's on there, there's courthouse security on there, it says county debt, capital improvement, and general government. So you see 6 lines, and you'd see the 7th one that would say fire capital. If this proposal goes through this year, just for the apparatus and station.
If you put in the 9 mills or something this year for fire capital, why, would it not be an even number every year going out for fire capital instead of the 470, 320, 117, things like that?
It just depends on what the purchase is for that year, and it'll change as it grows or whatever. Am I understanding? What are you talking about?
We got 4 million the first year, 5, and you got 3 million, and you got 5.9, and you got
No.
4.7.
No, yeah, it's tied to the number of apparatus you buy, it's tied to the cost of the purchase that year.
Mark, are you on stations or truck?
On truck,
Okay.
Yeah. So you're saying where it goes from 4.7 to 3.4?
yeah.
That's just the expense side. So it reflects here that we were saying 8 apparatus, and that 4.3 is the cost of that apparatus in that year. So then we're dropping down to 6 apparatus in 26, and the 3.4 is just the cost of the apparatus that year. So how we pay for it is the whole bonding thing, but the revenue's coming in. So that number just represents the expense side.
And Mark, if you want to cross-reference, he didn't name the apparatus, but if you go back to this list that we laid on the table tonight,
Well, I was just thinking, if you get $5 million a year, then you buy $5 million of trucks a year. That's my question. Why buy?
You say, why, if you got 5 on the first year, why ain't it 5 on the second year and buy 8?
If you get 5
You
million,
can do it all across
whatever
4
you
years.
get, why not buy that amount of trucks every year?
Part of it's just how you do financing for big purchases and stuff like this, because you have to go out and buy bonds in the market. And so we wouldn't probably bond 10 years, we might bond the first 5 years. But part of it's about the whole financing stuff.
Okay.
There's a little bit more nuances to it.
Alright.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right. Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Moskow, for coming in and presenting that. Do you have anything on the budget?
unless somebody got a question about something.
Any questions on the commission budget?
And once he makes his recommendation, I don't know if he's gonna send that to us before he gets to council, but once he makes his recommendation to council, we'll know what that is. And then, of course, county council does with it as they choose, as they do every year, but that'll be the first start of what we'll actually know, either what the administrator has recommended be funded in your request as far as the fire commission budget, along with the request in the fire rescue budget and the rest of the county budgets for that matter.
So when do we find out about the budget approval?
Well,
June 26th is the third reading.
you'll know by the time they get to second, when they do second reading, the budget's pretty much done. The councils lately don't play games on third reading. That, you used to have to wait till the final vote on third reading. But now they're pretty good about, they make any changes between first and second, so they do their public hearing at second reading. And once they do their public hearing, they don't wanna make a change on that budget again, because they've sort of set a rule that they have to do another public hearing, which slows them down. So by second reading, we'll know pretty good where we're at. First reading, we'll have a good idea, but second reading, we're pretty well know.
The dates of the budget readings, was that something you'd want sent out to y'all, so you know?
It'd be great, yes.
And then one more thing on this list, if this went, I know somebody created this with the way they want it built out, who's the ultimate decision on how it works? Once the county said, hey, we're gonna add capital, who's making the decision where we move that money and what is done first?
I'm doing it in concert with Darren.
I guess I was.
We good? All right, rescue service moving forward, pretty much covered it in what we just spoke about. We have not had any meetings, we're waiting to see where all of the millage and, falls this year, before we keep meeting. And at any time, especially the committee members, if you feel we need to have a meeting, we can call one. I have no problem with that. Fire rescue numbering system for county departments.
everybody's gonna carry that back to your departments and discuss it, and then come back tonight and either put it dead or move forward with some kind of recommendation. I don't know what
Mr. Chairman, I got a
Yes,
recommendation.
sir. All right.
Since that commission meeting we met, that was after our first of the month meeting in April.
Okay.
We haven't met yet.
Okay.
I talked to some members, but I did not have a whole department to speak with and verify that. And that's,
I have not-
unless everybody has a
I
consensus
have not
on
either.
it, so
You wanna move to
I-
next month?
I request we move to next month.
We've got a request and a second on that. Everybody in agreement with that? All in favor? All right. We'll move it to next.
I have a question, a couple questions that my department came up with.
Okay.
Is it gonna be a headache to have two different operating systems, around multiple departments with, dispatch? Or is
I
it
can't
gonna be,
answer that question.
huh?
I can't answer that question.
That's
They
probably,
haven't
I
told you
mean, I
any,
don't,
that's
I
right.
really don't know because, I mean, it could be, there could be confusion anyway. I mean, no matter how you look at it. You get a new dispatcher in there, it could be the same learning curve. They're different than us changing something and, dispatcher's been there for a long time, had to learn it. It's,
whenever stuff's put into the tone out, they have to ask for certain truck or whatever, that comes up, is that computer generated or is that?
well, I mean, when they
dispatcher got to
change
decide
the
stuff?
resource, when they change the resource, it'll change it DSN, so it's not like they got to go to 15 places to change
Yeah.
the resource, they change that resource name, it don't change where it was. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And it's a little easier that way. Now, if they had to go and change every
Yeah,
ESN,
yeah.
that's a whole different ballgame, but, it's just a matter of changing the resource.
okay,
And it's just a matter of us slipping up, no different than asking Greg, cause I haven't got used to the numbers yet. I mean, it's hard for us to keep up with stuff, so, it's no different than that, but
yeah,
figuring out a number and stuff, hey, this is where I get to find it.
yeah, some of the younger guys are like y'all's way, older people, seem to like the old way.
That sound like our department.
So we were wanting to do what was the best thing for the county, if it was one way or another, if it doesn't matter, then, that's a difference too.
Yes.
I think the best is make it countywide. If we change, make it countywide. If
Yeah.
we don't,
what I think.
I think it'd be
I want
best
it to be
either
the
way,
same.
whichever way. Like the whole county the same way.
And I think that's what Unity was asking.
Yeah.
Do we change or do we leave it, make it all across the board? I think that's what they're asking.
Kelsey made the statement after the meeting last month that they weren't necessarily wanting to jump out by themselves. They wanted to see if everybody was going to move to that.
Definitely take it back to your stations so we can get a vote on it next month. And there again, just like Mark, bring any questions you have, so everybody can figure out what you wanna do. Alright, report on first due.
We have the parcel fixed, and we're getting a report for everything that's dispatched now. We're starting to push out, we'll be meeting with or talking with the fire chiefs, we're starting to push out the response side, which is acting just like acting 911 practically. The app, we'll be pushing that out, we're gonna start it already, so, we're pushing that out to everybody, on that side of it, and then as things move forward, we'll add permissions to certain people as the chiefs designate, and, move forward from there. Where we're at right now, Julie and Ann are making sure our personnel are in there correctly, like they're in firehouse. So when we migrate training and reports over, then everything is seamless and no errors. Same with apparatus, I got to go make sure that apparatus is like CAD, and that's what we've done so far. And then from there, make sure firehouse is like, I can go ahead and change firehouse like first U is, because the way it works in the firehouse system, and then that way we migrate the reports over, make sense and not throw errors on that. So, we're moving forward. We was waiting on that parser to happen. They made it happen, and, once we get these personnel in here, we'll be moving forward. And Britt and Sam will be training with the, first you guy on the training module and get that, get our training moved over so we can run that data.
They were to work out, paid people being volunteers too and having two different.
Still working on that side of it. Actually, now that we're where we are, we're gonna test Tony, and see, we talked about it, what, months ago, we just never did it. We're gonna test Tony to start with to see, but they say it's there, so we'll see and make sure it works on that side of it.
Y'all get the thing worked out where the department or call and,
Yeah, that's the partial.
okay.
They got it fixed.
Right.
I think it was same as with FDIC when they sent me an email, I can't remember. It was either right before FDIC or FDIC when
I
they
think
sent
you
me
were
an
up
email.
there when they.
Said, hey, look, and, look and see what you think, and I seen, I forgot who it was, and it was one that we went also, and it had us, it had the primary station and the two backup stations, all in
Pushing that app out
there.
this month.
Yeah, so, we'll send an email out and get everybody to download the app, and then you'll just get instructions on how to proceed from there. But you can go ahead and download the app on your phones. I'm not exactly sure how this app works with Androids. I can tell you that there's several volunteers in this county have Android phones on Active 911 and have problems with it, with mapping, and I cannot do anything about it. That's mapping at Google and the map they use. What you got to understand, when you use certain map apps on phones, you're at the mercy of that app. So if you got an app set up to avoid traffic and things of that nature, it's not gonna send you to the wreck. It's gonna send you around the wreck. And that's what the problem is now. Well, it sent me, I can't say how Sergio says it, but
GPS sent it the wrong way.
the wreck was on number 9 at Jack's, and it sent him down 903 to, where did it send him to? All the way to Primus Crossroads, back up. I don't know.
He went down to Jack one morning, he went, instead of coming Holiday Road, he went down 903 to town and come back to the wreck.
Wow. But that's some of the mapping. So it has its own map, so hopefully that'll be a little bit better on that side of it.
But long story short is this has been a long road, but it looks like we're getting close to the sign, so we'll see when we're moving forward. And that's assuming Mr. Marshall pays for it next year.
Somebody in
That's
this
really
office,
quick.
not naming their names, deleted 30 years worth of historical data on a tanker. And they asked him twice before he typed yes and hit enter. It's not a big deal, because I mean, it is data, but it was something good for that. So I can get it back, but it'd take Julie and Ann's all whole day's worth of work away. And realize it.
It's a big deal for some other 10 to 10 years before we
Well.
get a new one.
Good job, Mike.
But anyway.
Any questions for Billy on first due?
Well, sir.
All right, call types?
Nothing to add this one.
Since we own that, this last server update migration should have been last night. And I apologize for the late send out, but I sent it out when I got it, so, that was the last migration, that was the last server. It actually didn't take as long as they thought it was gonna take. It was one of the oldest servers that we had, so that was the last migration.
But you did get it down.
Yeah, I did get it.
Approval of AFG grants.
The only thing we got outstanding is the air compressor trailer that McDonald ordered is losing, the middle of this month.
The middle of this month.
Covered that little while ago.
We did have some discussions with the manufacturer of the compressor itself,
Nice.
and they said it was not their delay.
Oh.
So
There's been conflict back and forth, so
Yeah.
we just ready to see it.
He was a nice guy, I mean, he stood there talking to me.
$130,000 piece of equipment,
That can be utilized throughout the county, and it's still sitting nowhere else. All right, SOG committee?
So y'all, I think they said y'all were working on a funeral SOG or something, is that correct?
We are, did you say one up for it?
Yes, I sent one to Chuck, Derek, that, Keith and myself created, and then, sent it to SOG so they could take a look at it.
So I don't think we've had a whole lot of discussion on it yet today.
I have not received anything.
I think we had, 'cause I hadn't seen anything.
Anything else on SOG? So the rescue committee, we are going through the SOGs and we're taking them by sections. And, we're in all the Swiftwater stuff now, so y'all start seeing some stuff, very minor changes, on stuff coming it'll come to the SOG committee and then you'll start seeing it migrate out to here. Alright, strategic planning.
What we talked about.
All right, apparatus. We've already talked about budget planning. Already talked about it. And PERT. No need to talk about that. So any station announcements?
Yeah, I got one thing, I got a phone call today from, a employee at, Goodell on Riverside Road. If you look in your package about this, flyer that I'm about to talk about, this, he is a friend of this captain from Rockville Fire Department, and, he has a brain tumor. They're hosting a cornhole tournament this Saturday, so, in the cornhole or know somebody that is, they greatly appreciate your assistance and, for the cornhole tournament and, helping pay for his medical bills. So he wanted me to pass this along to him. I said, what better chance than tonight? So.
And just so y'all know, he lives in Lancaster County. He actually lives right off Calvin Hall in our district. So, very young guy.
Good guy, too.
Absolutely
Good guy.
needs the help.
Do y'all know if he is applying for the state cancer benefit yet? Because usually within 2 weeks, a $40,000 cancer rise.
I can't answer that. He worked for Rock Hill Fire.
Somebody know him that can ask him that
I know
question?
him.
Make sure.
Yeah,
you let him know.
I'm in a class with one of those battalion chiefs, I can ask him tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, that application is not difficult to do, and that insurance company, everybody that I've assisted has had a check within 2 weeks of that application being turned in. That $20,000 up front, her help, plus that $12,000 in benefit for all their other expenses is good too. I mean, it really helps. Ask Stephen Gardner.
Guys with malignant tumor.
Yeah, man, he is like a health nut. He runs, eats, and he just started having seizures. And ended up in that. It is what, you can see the picture. You got kids. Very, very sad. Very positive attitude. We'll give him that. We went over there multiple times, took food, and he'll come up to our station, just hang out so he can be in a station with some firemen every once in a while. So, we try to accommodate as much as we can, but if y'all can absolutely help, that'd be fantastic.
I mean, if you can't help, the stations could do a donation.
Yeah,
If they like.
absolutely. It's, yeah. So, like I said, yeah, I know him, very, very good guy. We can get whatever, if y'all wanna donate, y'all can coordinate that with this office, please.
We can help with that in the Chiefs Association. You can go through that too if you want to.
So, all right.
Greg,
Yes, sir.
you told me the SOG, is there, any way possible we may go to a electronic SOG instead of these books? Maybe put it on the agenda for next week, next month to talk about it.
Yeah, I thought that was an excellent idea about 10 years ago.
It's just a whole lot easier.
10 years ago, it was a huge file. The county's done a lot with something called NeoGov. It may be possible to do it more now than it used to be in a format that you'd be able to access, as opposed to a huge file that you might not be able to open.
We have discussed it on not just SOGs, but having all the, like accident reports where you can pull them up and it automatically emails all the people that needs to. So
Maybe we can get that on the agenda for next month.
I'm absolutely fine with it.
And I think this is gonna be said on record, you can be mad at me, but I read the minutes, but I didn't read the front page, so we need to back up to that. I was not here last month, my Fred Plotter was, so you got me as president, and Fred Plotter was in my place.
Wait, I'll show up to our meeting.
He was, well, he's your size, not my size.
We'll make that change. Any other announcements? Nobody's having famous catfish stew or anything?
No, they've already done that.
All right.
All the world famous chicken.
All right, all in favor of? Done, man. There we go. Thank y'all.